Hi guys, welcome to Ontario Gardening, and this is our very first video. Today we're going to be talking about dwarf apple trees and planting them in containers. So why we picked dwarf apple trees: we have a little bit of a smaller yard, and these trees will only be about 2 feet, therefore taking up very little space, and we can actually put them in larger containers and have them on our patio. So that's great for just being able to move them around, and they're an awesome conversation piece. And in the wintertime we can actually put them in the garage or in the shed so that they can get their cold hours. Talking about that, their cold hours and what that means. So these are fruiting trees, obviously, and the fruit needs as many hours in the cold as they do in the sun. So you need X amount of hours in the spring and the summer so that the fruit can blossom and everything can bud and everything can grow. And then, like other perennials you would have in your garden, they also need to go dormant for the winter time. So you don't want to bring dwarf apple trees into your home. Of course, that would be your instinct, which would be bring them into the warm, but you actually don't want to do that. You don't want to bring them into warmer conditions inside because they're going to continue to blossom and to fruit, and that's not something you want to do. So having them in these containers is perfect because you are able to move them, like I said, into a garage or into a shed or into a covered area and protect them from snow and winds and snaps and that kind of thing. Being in Ontario and Canada here, we can see -30, we can see really heavy snowfall, and because they're so little, you want to protect them. So that's more about the cold snap. So types of dwarf apple trees. We got our apple trees here from a local nursery, from Silver Creek Nursery, and they come as whips. Now, whips are basically sticks. There's actually 2 in here, 1 and 2. So they come as little whips, and you can get first year or second year whips, and that's what you're going to plant, and they're going to establish their roots and they're going to take off. We picked the second year whips. They were $43 a piece, so we got 2 of them. So if you can do math, it's $86. And like I said, we picked the second year whip just to kind of get them going. This is the first time doing this, so we picked the second year. Types of apples. So there was a whole pamphlet and a whole booklet of different types of apples that you can pick, and you're going to pick the apple that you want based on your needs. So if you want apples that you can just pick right off of the tree and eat, you're going to pick a different type of apple than we picked. There's so many different kinds. We picked one Cortland. So we've got a Cortland apple here, and we have got a Spitzenberg here. And the reason that we picked these ones specifically for us is because we do canning, we do baking, and these types of apples are great for that. And if you actually contact Silver Nursery or go on their website, Silver Creek Nursery, go on their website, they'll actually send you a booklet, and it goes through each type of apple, what they're good for, what they're not good for, a little bit of history on each apple, and it also tells you when the apples will bloom. So for us, we wanted apples that are going to fruit and produce at the same time. So we picked 2 fruits that will come in October. So we didn't want one that was going to come in July and then another one that was going to come later on in October. We wanted ones that were going to produce at the same time. The other thing to know about apple trees, and I think this goes to my understanding all apple trees, not just dwarfs, is you need 2 different varieties to pollinate each other. So we didn't want to put 2 Cortlands or 2 Spitzenbergs because they're not going to properly pollinate each other. You want 2 different species or 2 different varieties to pollinate each other. So we're going to get these trees planted, and just a couple things that you're going to need. So this is how it comes from the nursery. The roots are mulched up in here just to keep the roots protected. And you obviously are going to need containers. There are so many options of containers that you can use. They range from, $15 to $100 per container. These ones, I believe, are 68 gallons. You want at least 50 gallons so those roots can get established and they can move and they can grow, and you've got enough roots to produce fruit on your trees. So we got these at Canadian Tire, actually. They're utility buckets. They're the Jumpstart utility buckets. These ones were $14.97 a piece. We were trying to be a little bit cost effective, being that the trees were already $100, and we honestly don't know if these are going to work out or not. So $14.97 a piece. I can link them down in the bottom in case you are interested in getting them. But yeah, they're the utility totes that you would put balls or toys or that kind of stuff in with the ropes on the side, which is awesome that they had the ropes on the side because it'll make it easier for us to drag them around when we need to. They need drainage. Most things need drainage, so we actually flipped them over before we put any soil in them, and we drilled 5 or 6 holes in the bottom for proper drainage. Once you have the container of your choice, you're going to fill it obviously with soil. We used potting soil, triple mix, and a little bit of peat moss. They do recommend a little bit of peat moss just to keep that moisture in and retain the water to help obviously with the roots. So that's what you need for that, for the container portion of it. The next thing you're going to need is a type of stick or bamboo rod that you can use to, we're going to put it beside the tree. Because the whips are so tiny and so fragile, when you first put them in, you're going to need to support them. So these are 4 options that I have here, just from our local Dollarama. You've got like the massive bamboo stick that eventually you might need to like upgrade to, and then they get smaller from there. I'm actually going to use these tomato stakes just for now because the whips aren't really that large. So I'm going to use these just with some tape. And when I say tape, you don't want to use like duct tape or any of that. I also got this gardening tape here. So stretch tie tape. And the perfect thing about stretch tie tape, like again, this is just from our dollar store. You can also get it online because right now I don't even know if you can go into the store. I haven't been out, but with this lockdown here in Ontario, I don't know what you can and can't get. You can get this online. The stretch tie tape, it prevents burn and anything from any of your plants. We use it for our fruits and our vegetables as well, so that it doesn't prevent any burn and it doesn't destroy the plant or break the plant. So the first thing, getting into planting, moving along, we're going to plant these suckers. We're going to plant them today. So the first thing you're going to do is we're going to open this up, and then you're going to take the root of the plant, and we're putting it in water. Just a bucket of water. And we are going to do that for 20 minutes. So I'm going to see if I can do that here on camera for you guys just to show you, and then we'll move along from there. So here we are with our roots open and our bucket of water, and I'm going to pull them out. And as you can see, the roots have kind of already started. And we're just going to dunk them into the water here. And like I said, we're going to let these sit for about 20 minutes to half hour. And then they will be ready for planting. I'm going to move them to the ground here so they have a chance to sit. Okay, so now that these have sat for 20 minutes, we are going to plant them into our containers. Now, the important thing to know, they've marked off here for us where the root kind of starts. One of the important things when planting these in containers is you do not want to plant them too high up. You don't want to put the soil too high up on the tree, or the roots actually won't establish and grow. So you only just want to go to right about where the root starts, and that's exactly where we're going to plant them. So we're going to dig our hole in here. Just to about getting some roots down there. So right about there is probably where you're going to want to plant, and then we're going to add, so we're going to do this with and make sure that those roots are getting down into that soil. But again, and you want to have it center. So really get those roots, make sure that they're down in there. get your plant center to the tree, and then, so right about there in the middle is good. Now you're going to want to add some topsoil, obviously, to the top. And while I'm doing this, let's talk a little bit about fertilizing your tree. They talk about watching the type of fertilizer that you put in here, because you can actually cause root burn. So you don't want to put a heavy fertilizer right away until the roots start getting established. And then you want to actually just use compost. So buying a good compost will be the most beneficial for your fruit tree. Go. Making sure that that's nice and straight. Just lifted it a little bit higher here. I didn't like how deep that was. So we're gonna just do this, and then I'll move it around, make my life easier. I'm a messy gardener, so I just go with the flow. Okay, so once we've got the proper amount of soil that you want in here, and again, watching that you're not coming too high with that soil, and you want to leave a little bit of room for compost later on. So now we're going to stake. We're going to take our stake, put it beside our tree. We want to get it kind of deep in there because we want the support for this whip. So I'm actually just going to go right to the bottom with it. And probably be easier with the gloves. Making sure everything's straight. And now we're going to tie it off. And we want to tie it off kind of in the middle. Not too tight, but tight enough that it's going to have some support. And this is stretch tie tape, so it's going to have a little bit of give. So you can actually like stretch that out if you wanted to. So there you go. We've got our first apple tree planted in our container. So here it is here. Our apple tree planted in our container. I'm going to leave this on for now, just because I want to know what each one is. And I'm not going to label the container just quite yet. So if you guys have any questions or comments, leave them below. I'm going to link Silver Creek Nursery, so you can either request a catalog or go online, because all of their information is online about the apples as well. Get an idea of different apples and maybe something that you might be interested in. I will also link the containers from Canadian Tire. And yeah, I would like to talk about pruning. So the top of the trees, they suggest pruning 1/3 of the whip once you put it into the container or into the ground, if you are doing the ground. I'm going to leave it just for now. I'm going to leave it for a couple days until it settles in, and then I'm going to prune. So they say about 1/3. So probably about here. They suggest pruning that off to help the roots get established. Again, I'm going to leave it for now. It's a scary thing. Some people do, some people don't. The nursery recommends it. I've read a few people online recommend it. Other people say absolutely not. So it's a personal choice. We are going to see. See, it's windy today. It's actually very windy here today. Everything's knocked over. So if I had have planted this tree, just the whip alone, it'd probably be swaying in the wind right now. And that's exactly why we want to tie it up, get that stick in there, make sure it's stable. So yeah, thanks so much for watching our first video. We are gonna have many different segments to come. We've got some indoor gardening, some outdoor gardening. We've got a whole vegetable garden that we'll touch on. I've got a click and grow inside that we're going to touch on, starting seeds, a couple reviews on like hoses and all that fun stuff. So stay tuned and thanks for watching. Bye.